David Rhodes, the executive editor for news at NewYorker.com. Danya Perry served as New York Deputy Attorney General and Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, and they join me now. First, let's start with the news reported by the New York Times. Again, this has been an incremental and moving story, but we now have, I think, the best sense of the scope here, David. 40 subpoenas, 2 cell phones taken from individuals close to Trump, Boris Epshteyn and Mike Roman, a subpoena being served to Bernie Kerik. This seems bigger than just a focus on the super PAC. This seems like a big case that the federal government is making. What do you make of it?
I think they're, systematically collecting evidence. They're being aggressive as they can be. And I think they are pressuring these various Trump associates to become cooperating witnesses. You see that in all these different investigations. The subpoenas, they want them to come turn over records. They maybe want some of them to testify before a grand jury. You mentioned the case of Christina Bobb, who signed that letter saying there weren't any classified documents in Mar-a-Lago. She is now in legal jeopardy. And I think investigators in that case are eager to get her under oath because she has a choice. Does she sort of explain that President Trump had her say this, that implicates Trump in wrongdoing, or does she, lie to a grand jury? And this is a kind of classic, prosecution tactic for a wide-ranging investigation where you, again, go with these lower-level people and pressure them to flip.
Danya, what do you think about the legal trouble of Trump's attorneys here? I mean, it does strike me as, look, if you are a criminal defense lawyer, right, you're going to be adjacent to people accused of doing illegal things as a matter of what your job is. But it does seem striking when you look at Michael Cohen and Rudy Giuliani and now his current attorneys who have retained legal counsel. I don't think I've ever encountered someone who has seemed to put his own lawyers in as much legal jeopardy as Donald Trump has.
It's unprecedented in my experience as well. It was remarkable to hear you tick off the laundry list of attorneys who have gotten themselves into legal jeopardy. And I represented Michael Cohen, so I'm well familiar with it. And that was in his bid to be released from federal prison after he was unconstitutionally remanded. And I was one of the people who filed the disciplinary the complaint against Rudy Giuliani. So you're kind of aware, but it's kind of a slow boil. But when you put it all together like that, it really is remarkable. And it really goes to what we've been hearing from people like Michael Cohen for a long time, that there is a tremendous amount of pressure by the former president on his advisors to, as you say, do his bidding. And we've seen that for a long time now. And if anything, it's only the pressure has only increased as we see now with the more recent lawyers who have themselves had to hire lawyers. And it's an interesting kind of like a Russian nesting doll where lawyers who have managed to avoid criminal or other investigation are now representing some of the lawyers who are now under investigation. A little incestuous, but from reporting and from common sense, it's a little hard for obvious reasons for former President Trump to find lawyers these days.
Yeah, and David, let's talk about the dynamics at DOJ, which is something you've been reporting on. I mean, we now have these two seemingly separate inquiries, right? There is an investigation into the unlawful retention of classified material, which was found in the ex-president's Florida home, and the escalating, investigation into that. Then there's the January 6th grand jury. I mean, those are presumably being run entirely different sections of DOJ, but they have to make similar calculations about investigative timing as we come near the election. Like, what does your reporting suggest about how the department is looking at all this?
My sense is that the investigations are being carried out as they should. These are by sort of lower level prosecutors. It's not Merrick Garland himself who's deciding to issue these subpoenas, but you have teams that are attacking evidence and trying to find criminality where it exists. They are investigating the heck, I'll say, out of this, is how one person put it to me. That's what they want to do now. They want to collect more evidence. They want to see if there are cooperating witnesses. One idea I think they could be pursuing in Florida is they want to see if President Trump, did he sort of show off some of these classified documents to people? They'd want to talk to guests in Mar-a-Lago who maybe he did that too. There's no confirmation that he actually did that, but they want to investigate every possible thing they can And then the big step here is when they prepare a prosecution memo. Each of these teams will prepare a different memo about these different crimes, and they'll make a recommendation on whether or not Donald Trump should be indicted. And that's when the decision goes to Merrick Garland. So right now it's these low-level groups working, intensively to collect all the evidence and all the witnesses they can. And I don't think you'll see anything, there's no way I think you'd see a prosecution memo presented to Garland or any kind of decision until after the midterm elections.
Danya, one of the points in the Times reporting was about the fact that it does appear that the January 6th committee has unearthed things that have served as very, very fruitful prosecutorial leads, or at least investigative leads for the DOJ. At least some of the new subpoenas, in fact, requested all records the recipient turned over to the House committee investigating January 6th, according to a person familiar with the matter. So there is an interesting relationship here in terms of what the committee has unearthed and how this D.C.-based grand jury investigation is unfolding.
Yeah, not surprisingly, one of the things that has mystified me, and I haven't heard a reasonable explanation for it, but why there has been so little sharing of information between the committee and DOJ. But for whatever reasons, they may be political, the DOJ now is sort of circumventing that, and as you pointed out, or as the reporting points out, is now just directly requesting the document. So I guess that sidesteps some of those issues. But the select committee has unearthed a tremendous amount of information, and they've done a remarkable job, I think, marshaling it and making a very compelling case. So it's not surprising at all that DOJ has been paying attention like the rest of the country and is picking up some of its cues from the results of that investigative work.
Final question to you, David. I mean, all of this comes down to this, you talked about this is being done by the book, people down the chain making these decisions, writing a prosecution memo. But of course, there's sort of existential stakes here, right, about the integrity of the rule of law, the appearance, the legitimacy. You're right about this. A growing concern is that Trump's false claims about the judiciary are steadily undermining the public's views of judges as neutral, nonpartisan arbiters, that his cynicism fuels a public cynicism about the fairness of the court system and of American democracy. What's so pernicious and successful about Trump's approach is his shamelessness in contriving the worst possible explanation for judges' rulings in a way that play on many Americans' long-running distrust of government. And this all, to me, seems like there is no way out of the test of the system for either DOJ or the judiciary when all is said and done here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an enormous sort of moment for the DOJ. And I think for the judiciary, Judge Cannon's ruling where she said there should be a special master, it's been roundly criticized. It'll be overturned on appeal. And that's the kind of, cynical partisan ruling that Donald Trump wants to have happen. Just tonight, the Justice Department, though, agreed to one of Trump lawyers' suggestions for a judge who could be a special master. His name is Judge Deary, and he's a great judge. There are good judges, and this investigation can be carried out properly and fairly, and I think it definitely will be.
All right, David Rode and Danya Perry, thank you both. Coming up with